The Baltimore Ravens have the number one offense in the NFL in total yards. They have the number one rush defense in the NFL in total yards, but they have the worst ranked pass defense in the NFL. So, what's wrong with the defense? Let's talk about it. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to TTB Ravens Media. And today it's going to be a little bit more of a positive note than the live stream that we had on Sunday night. If you haven't watched it, go check it out. But basically talking about the Raiders game and the things that went wrong. But this video is a true analysis of what the Ravens defense is, and not necessarily me trying to call anybody in specific out. Now, with that in mind, a lot of this is going to be directed at Zachary Orr. But that is not to say I dislike Zachary Orr, that I'm counting him out. Remember, Mike Macdonald defenses struggled early under him. Remember that Ravens-Dolphins game, that monumental collapse where everyone was saying, Mike Macdonald, this guy sucks. We can't have him in here. And I was saying, hey, guys, it's going to take some time. I think Zachary Orr, it's going to take some time. I'm not trying to put out this video to try and, put his head on a spike or anything like that, right? No pitchforks, nothing like that. Just wanted to talk about schematically and really stylistically how the Ravens defense is playing. Because when you look at it and when you watch the games, I think it's pretty clear the Ravens have a really good defense. And then you look at the final scores and you look at the total yards and you're like, wait, what happened? Because against the Chiefs, at least when I was watching it, it felt like they were doing a really good job against Patrick Mahomes and everything like that. It felt like they were keeping the slow, stagnant offense, like kept them in the game so that towards the end, they did actually have a chance. And then you look at this Raiders game where, especially in the first half where, it ended up being 6-9 in the first half, the defense looked spectacular. And all of a sudden, the second half hits, and it's like, wait, now the other team is scoring touchdowns. Now they're throwing the ball, and they're just throwing the ball all over the Ravens defense. And it's pretty frustrating to watch, especially when you consider what the Ravens and, every Ravens fan, I think, would have thought as what's the strength of the Baltimore Ravens defense coming into the year. Well, you'd look at the pass rush and be like, okay, we don't know what really we have outside of Nnamdi Madubuike. We have good backers. We have Roquan, but we don't really know what Trenton Simpson is. And then you look at the secondary and you're like, oh, we got Marlon, Brandon Stevens, rookie Nate Wiggins. And I know Nate Wiggins didn't play this Sunday. That could have definitely affected things. Hopefully things change going forward. But we see those corners, then we see, who are the safeties though? And you go, Kyle Hamilton, Marcus Williams. Wow. The secondary is definitely the strength. This should be a great pass defense, especially if they have a pass rush. Now, I'm here to tell you, the Baltimore Ravens have a really good pass rush, and the secondary and the pass defense is still bad. So, why could that be the case? First off, I want to credit the pass rush. Odafe Oweh has been fantastic so far this year. Madubuike has been great. David Ojabo has had some really good plays. Travis Jones is probably the unsung hero amongst fans so far. He's been doing a great job getting interior pressure. He's not getting a lot of sacks, but he is certainly collapsing the pocket, forcing difficult throws, and making good plays in both the pass and the run game. So the pass rush is clearly not the issue, which is what it's been in the last couple of years when the Ravens have struggled against passing teams. We just can't get to the quarterback. They're sitting back there forever, and then they're just thrown to wide open guys. That's not necessarily the case here. They're getting 3-step dropbacks, and they're throwing it quickly because they're scared of the Ravens pass rush. Now we look at the defense and how it's being called. The Baltimore Ravens for, 27, 28 years have been a team built off of one thing, and that's defense. And that defense was built off of one thing, and that's stopping the run. The second draft pick that they ever had in the history of the franchise was on a guy named Ray Lewis. We all know who he is, the greatest middle linebacker in the history of the NFL. What was he really good at? He was great at stopping the run. That was an early emphasis from Ozzie Newsome and the NFL, new team, even though they technically were the Browns, but, whatever, new team. They want to stop the run, right? And you build up to that 2000 Super Bowl defense, and you've got those guys like Tony Siragusa, and you have Sam Adams, and it was all about stopping the run, right? It's been that way for 25 years since 2000. All you go against the Ravens, you cannot run the football. That's what the identity of the defense has been based off of. We've had different players throughout the years, right? We drafted CJ Mosley to stop the run. We obviously had some great defensive linemen. Haloti Nada is a big one, but also just guys like Brandon Williams, Michael Pierce. Obviously, Pierce is back in Baltimore, but we've always had these guys that can just stop the run. Because if a team can't run the ball, you force them to be one-dimensional. I think this Ravens defense is overcommitting and forcing teams to pass, but still just forcing this, you can't run, you can't run, you can't run. And I don't necessarily think you need to do that with the players on this defense. I think we're going way too often into base formations and even bringing extra linebackers on the field too much, right? And I'll pull up the numbers in a little bit, but just talking about it schematically, right? If you want to stop the run, the best way to do it is you're probably bringing in bigger defensive linemen. Obviously, we have Michael Pierce. He's our run stuffing, D tackle. He's our one tech, as most people would describe it. Then you would probably bring in extra linebackers. So we have played, guys like Malik Harrison as an extra player. Maybe we bring in Brent Urban to be an extra man on the defensive line. Obviously, we know Kyle Van Noy is kind of the starting Sam backer. And we do see Malik Harrison sub in for him as well. But we see a lot of linebackers on the field for the Ravens in order to try and stop the run against teams with good running backs. Pacheco's not a bad running back. I think he's a little bit overrated. I think he gets put in conversations he shouldn't be in, but he's not bad by any means. And then you go against the Raiders, and they don't have the best of running backs. But, Zamir White is a, young guy that's shown some promise, and Alexander Madison is an okay number 2 running back. But you're going into this game, and your whole philosophy is stop the run. And they did that. They did that spectacularly. The Raiders could not run the football. It was horrible. But it felt like they were still sending those same packages out on the field in the second half when they're clearly not running anymore. And I think that the players that this Ravens team has are good enough to stop the run without having to go into these formation changes by having extra backers out on the field. I think if the Ravens were rocking more nickel, more dime defenses, they would still have the ability to stop the run because of the players that they have. Their number 1 pass rusher, who has been productive this year, I believe is Odafe Oweh. I believe he's the most sacks on the team. I'm going to double check that right now. I would assume he is. Yes, 2.5 sacks currently. He is our number 1 pass rusher as it stands right now. Obviously, the most talented, Nnamdi Madubuike. He's going to be out there as well. He can stop the run. Nnamdi can stop the run. Odafe, fantastic against the run. If you want to say, he hasn't produced as a pass rusher in his NFL career thus far, I will not say that's incorrect. But what I will say is he's been a fantastic edge setter against the run. He does a very good job at stopping the run. That's what he's been for the last 3 years for the Ravens. And I always said, wait till the 4th year to find out what he is as a pass rusher. He's looking like he's pretty good. Again, we're only 2 games in, but he's had very productive games. But he can stop the run, right? Ojabo's not necessarily the best against the run, but he's, an alternate, pass rusher. He's not in there every time. Odafe Oweh is in there more than any other pass rusher, and he can stop the run. Travis Jones has been great against the run. Obviously, you have Michael Pierce, but if you're saying like, hey, we want to stop the pass, but still have players that can stop the run, you can get Odafe on the line. You can get Travis Jones next to Nnamdi Madubuike, and those are 3 players that are all good against the run. And if you want to have another pass rusher out there on the edge, you can put in Ojabo. He's not horrendous against the run. You can use Kyle Van Noy against the run. He can do that. If you want to throw Malik Harrison on the line, I know the Ravens have tried that a little bit. He's not bad against the run. But like that right there, you don't need an extra backer in the middle of the field because 3 out of the 4 defensive linemen that you have are good against the run. Not to mention, you have the best run-stopping middle linebacker in the NFL. I don't know if there's anyone necessarily that close to Roquan Smith when it comes to stopping the run. I think Roquan Smith and Fred Warner out in San Francisco are the clear top two linebackers in the NFL. But they do very different things. Fred Warner is far and away the best pass coverage middle linebacker in the NFL. He's fantastic. And defenses that want that, they're going to take Fred Warner. Roquan Smith is the best run stuffing linebacker in the NFL. So they work perfectly for each team, but he can stuff the run. And I get we have a new will linebacker in Trenton Simpson, but he has the speed and he has the tackling prowess to be able to stop the run. And he's done good so far at it. You look at that game he started against the Pittsburgh Steelers week 18 last year, he was stopping the run, right? He can do it. And so I feel like if you want to bring in an extra cornerback, which we're not doing, by the way, to be able to double certain players and to be able to try and sell out on the pass and find out really how good our run stuffing is, I think that would be beneficial. Because when I watch this Ravens defense, I'm saying stop the pass because that's what's killing him. The run has not been killing them. They need to adjust to stop the run if their standard front is not getting it done. Because I firmly believe that their standard front can absolutely get it done against almost every team in the NFL, right? You face off against maybe a team like the Browns or something like that with if Nick Chubb is healthy and you're like, okay, maybe we need to sell out a little bit more against the run. You know, the Packers are pretty good at running the football. They've got Josh Jacobs, a talented back. Sure, bring in bigger guys for that. But against teams like the Raiders, who have a premier wide receiver, or against teams like the Chiefs, who have a premier quarterback, you should be focusing on the pass and finding out if your standard front is going to be good enough to stop the run. If you have to make an adjustment and sell out to stop the run, sure. But right now, it feels like they're selling out every time. And it does a good job in the first half when teams are trying to establish the run game. But in the second half, the Ravens continue to sell out, and the other teams stop running the football. So I said I'd bring up the numbers. Here they are. So in the Chiefs game, when we had a number 3 cornerback, we had Nate Wiggins. The snap count was Brandon Stevens played the entire game. Also, I think it's really funny. Brandon Stevens is still listed as a free safety, but Brandon Stevens played the whole game. Marlon played the whole game. Marcus Williams, Kyle Hamilton. Marcus Williams played the whole game. Kyle Hamilton, I think, got hurt on a series, and so he missed like 3 snaps. But essentially, he played the entire game. And then after that, we used a lot of Eddie Jackson. So we are using a third safety. But Nate Wiggins had 17 snaps, and Jalen Armour-Davis had 14 snaps against the Chiefs. Like we were going and we were throwing these backers out there. Kyle Van Noy had more snaps than them. Michael Pierce, the run stopping nose tackle, had more snaps than them. Malik Harrison had 15 snaps. So that's more than Malik Harrison and Tavius Robinson had more than Jalen Armour-Davis, who was coming in and rotating in, especially at the beginning, as the number 3 cornerback. That's not necessarily what I want to see. And then you look at last week when we didn't have Nate Wiggins, and I understand the Ravens don't trust Jalen Armour-Davis a lot, but Brandon Stevens got hurt. He missed a little bit of time. And remember, that's when Jalen Armour-Davis had to come in. So a lot of his snaps were filling in for Brandon Stevens. It wasn't even the Ravens going to a 3 cornerback look. But you look at who played the most. Trent Simpson, Kyle Hamilton, Marcus Williams, Marlon Humphrey, Roquan, every snap. After that, Brandon Stevens, he missed, it looks like about 15, or he missed 2 snaps. And those were replaced by Jalen Armour-Davis. Eddie Jackson missed about 15 snaps. So we're getting 3 safeties in there, but not 3 cornerbacks. And our safeties, none of them are necessarily man coverage players. Kyle Hamilton can man up on a tight end. They can all man up kind of on a tight end, except for Eddie Jackson. He's a single high over the top safety. But then you see guys like Kyle Van Noy, 26 snaps. Michael Pierce, 24 snaps. Broderick Washington, 23 snaps. Tavius Robinson, 18 snaps. Malik Harrison, 8 snaps. Jalen Armour-Davis, like cornerback 3, 1 snap. And Ardarius Washington, safety, looks like 4, but also kind of a backup slot corner, 7 snaps. Like we were playing like 2 corners. We played 2 corners in a game against Devontae Adams, and a good number 2 in Jacoby Myers. Jacoby Myers is a route technician. He can get open. He's a very good number 2 wide receiver. Probably one of the best he's probably a top 10 number 2 wide receiver in the NFL. I'd have to look at all the numbers, but I'd assume he's a top 2 wide receiver 2, top 10 wide receiver 2 in the NFL. And when you go against them, and the Ravens defense is selling out against the run and putting Marlon and Brandon Stevens in one-on-one situations with maybe the best route runner in the NFL and Devontae Adams, that's going to get you cooked. We're not having safety help over the top. We're putting them in one-on-one, and Gardner Minshew was just throwing go routes, back shoulder fades, jump balls, all of it to Devontae Adams, and he was cooking everybody. Unless you have Pat Surtain, unless you have Sauce Gardner, Jalen Ramsey, you should not be going one-on-one against any of like the top 4 receivers in the NFL consistently. If you do it every once in a while, whatever. But you should not be going one-on-one against Devontae Adams the whole game, Tyreek Hill the whole game, like Jamar Chase the whole game, or Justin Jefferson the whole game. Like, you just shouldn't be doing that. But the Ravens are selling out to stop the run and putting all of their DBs, who are talented, but they're just putting them in difficult spots. Help out your defensive backs. And if you need to help out the defensive line, you need to help out the front 7 trying to stop the run, sure, go back to bigger personnel. But I truly believe the players that the Baltimore Ravens have in that front 7 are good enough at stopping the run to where you maybe only really need a front 6 in a lot of situations, right? Bring in an extra corner. Maybe don't bring in Eddie Jackson, but I think that was more due to Nate Wiggins being out. But when Nate Wiggins is healthy, the Ravens need to be utilizing 3 cornerbacks unless they just start getting destroyed by the run game. But I don't expect that to necessarily happen because, one, the Ravens should be leading in most games, which we saw that on Sunday, and teams have to throw from behind. But 2, they have the talent on the defensive front to stop the run without having to sell out for it because of the talent of Odafe Away, Nauni Madubuike, Travis Jones. And if you want to have, Michael Pierce in there and still just be in nickel, that would work as well, just to help stop the run again. But the Ravens right now aren't necessarily doing that. They're selling out to stop the run, and I think it's hurting them, and it's showing as how they're the number 1 run defense, but the worst pass defense in the NFL, and they're 0-2. Again, this isn't me calling out Zachary Orr. This isn't me calling out John Harbaugh, or I'm sorry, brother of Jim Harbaugh. But what I believe they need to do is put a little bit more of a focus on the pass, because over the last few years, when teams abandon the run, they've honestly just gotten better against the Ravens. They just play well. Look at the 49ers game when Purdy went out and Sam Darnold came in, and they were just throwing it every play. They actually were scoring. I got kind of worried. Thank you all so much for watching. Subscribe for more, and I'll see all of you again next time. Maybe talking about the offense, but we'll see. Let me know if there's anything you want me to talk about. Thank you. See you again.